This video is going to show you sniping positions that you can play in the Frontline game mode. Okay, so right now we're looking at Cap A. Look at where I am on the mini-map, which is, of course, the white triangle. And I'm going to show you exactly where I am. It's in this position. This is Cap A. So Cap A is directly in front of me. This rock is on Cap A. This house is either on Cap A or next to Cap A. This rock is on Cap A. The IS-3A, which is this tank right here, is on Cap A, as far as I know. Or I think it's on Cap A. So there's a hill over here, and then there's a little opening here on this side, and there's an opening on that side. There's a house next to the cap, and there's a tree. You want to knock the tree down so that it falls towards the house. And then you can pull into this position, and you'll be able to look through the cap, and you can monitor every vehicle. They usually drive through this opening. When I play, sometimes I don't come through the opening, but this is the most common place. You're going to see tanks coming through here, and they're going to hang a sharp left, and they're going to get behind this rock. So you can hit them as they come in, and of course you can spot them. This is an example of a tank that has just entered Cap A, and I'm taking shots at it as it's crossing through the cap. Here's an alternate position. The house that I showed you earlier is just off screen over here on the left. This is the entranceway that I was looking through in this direction. What I did was I repositioned so I could hit that IS-3A because he went behind a rock over here. This is the same tree in the same house, and what I'm doing is I'm showing that there's tanks up here on this ridge that are sniping, and I'm showing you the view that you're going to be able to get. So as you can see, when the tanks are at the halfway point on that ridge, or if they're trying to be a little bit aggressive, you'll be able to have clear shots against those tanks. You don't always have clear shots against the tanks because there is a lot of obstruction on that ridge. Here's another view. There's a tree behind. This is the primary tree. What I did was I knocked the tree down because you always want to knock trees down in the area where you're going to be sitting and sniping so that you get as much coverage as possible. You're less likely to get spotted. But what's going to happen is if they see a sniper over here that keeps hitting them, eventually they're going to send a recon flight over and you'll get spotted with a recon flight. Now what's happening here is I ran into the cap, I fired my ammo, you can see I'm out of ammo, and I hit some tanks over here, the IS-3A, perhaps, and a Defender, and then I'm running away. But while I'm running away, I know that there's no obstacles. If you look on the mini-map, you can see that there's no obstacles in my way. This is the front of the tank, and my gun is aiming backwards, and I'm watching this rock to make sure that they can't hit me. If a tank tries to come around, I'm going to change the direction that I'm driving so that he cannot hit me. The rock will always be in the way. After the enemy has won Cap A, I fall back usually to this position. If you look on the mini-map, I fall back to this position here. I'll show you the position. This is the position right here. So basically from here, if you look at the mini-map, where I'm pointed to, which is right next to the Progetto 46, and right in this location, there is the repair and the resupply facility. These tanks that are on low health are going to head for that facility. So this is the red line. You can see that there's still 23 seconds before the zone is going to be clear, and the airstrikes will come in. So from here, what I do is I sit and snipe at as many tanks as I can. There's a lot of trees, so you're unlikely to get spotted. You do have to. It does help if you have someone spotting for you. If you're self-spotting, it's going to be difficult. You might need a recon flight. This is a fallback position. After my ally had died, which was the Progetto 46, I fell back to this position. Obviously, you could go to any position you want. And the reason why I ended up on this position is because suddenly I was able to spot an enemy tank. When they disappear and I can't spot them, I decided to retreat. You can see the direction that my tank is pointing is to drive forward towards the enemy. And from here, you can still snipe at tanks that are near the supply facility if they are spotted. This is Cap B. First, I'm going to show you the defending position. So this is where I am, and those two ELCs are off in the distance there. This is a close-up. They're aiming at the LT 432, which is in my favorite position on this map, where you can snipe across to defend B. And they're going to kill him. And then they're going to leave. But this is a very powerful position. Look at where they are on the minimap. I'm pointing at their location on the minimap. Anyone that is trying to play defense on B from the east side over here is in danger, and you won't be able to defend yourself. These tanks will clear out this east side over here. So you have these tanks respawned at C, and they came over to B. So here's just a view as I am heading into a sniping position for Cap B. Now this is a sniping position into Cap B. You park next to this rock over here. There's another rock which is, I'm pointing at it on the mini-map, it's right off screen over here, which is shaped like an L. And those ELCs will sit here, look on the mini-map, and they'll snipe across, so it's very difficult to position to play. They probably killed me. You can see that I'm waiting to respawn. But you do have a view of the cap. From here, you've got a partial view of the cap. And from the other L-shaped rock, which is off screen, you've got a little bit of a better view of the cap. If you go to where the LT 432 was, which is along the red line, you can hit the tanks that are hiding over here. Now, right here, there's a house that has an L shape. This is the house right here. This house is right next to the cap. And it's also one of the closest positions to the cap. So if the enemy is capping, you don't have to actually rush on to the cap. What you can do is head for this house and park right here and side scrape. The house will protect you from all the tanks on the left side that are going to try and snipe at you, and you'll be able to get shots on this cap over here. So this is a really powerful position that you're going to want to know. Now, when you're trying to get onto the cap, this vehicle spawned on the beach, and instead of driving in this direction, I go to the right of this defense turret, and I go down this little slope right to this location over here, and I sit on the cap. And this is a location where I sit on the cap. From here, you'll be pretty safe. You do have to watch out for the tanks that are sniping on the east. There's no enemy tanks on the east right now, so for the moment, I'm safe. And this Centurion, he's in a position where he could probably fire or defend this opening, but he could get closer to the red line. But you do have to watch out because he can get sniped from the rear. And these are the tanks over here that are going to eventually rush the cap. So I was killed on the cap, and I've respawned this vehicle. And instead of taking this route, going past this turret, which is right here, this turret, I decided to go around the way the Centurion did. So let's look at what the Centurion did. I'm pointing at the Centurion on the minimap. You can see he's right here. You cannot climb this area, this whole entire upper area. You have to go all the way around to where the Centurion is to get up onto the cap. And it's a long route. And what I did was I drove this tank, went on the low area, went all the way around to where the AT-15 is, and by the time we got up on the cap, we had already won the cap. So it took a long time. You can see how, and Cap B, we hadn't even started capping it yet. So like I said, by the time I got there, they capped it. So it's a slow path to get there. But the reason why I'm showing you this is because of the Yag Tiger. The Yag Tiger is in a sniping position where he could probably hit that Scorpion. He can defend against tanks that are out there in the distance, and maybe shoot at the tanks that are up here on this position on the hill, which we're going to show later, and maybe he has some shots up over here. So my idea is, instead of heading straight for the cap, why don't you go up here to the sniping position, try to soften up the enemy a little bit, and then go down and head to the cap. Now this position is to the left. There's an opening over here. We've got the Yag Tiger on the right, and right over here off screen on the left is this position. You can look at the mini-map where it is. This position is one of the most powerful positions for the attacking team if you're a sniper. You've got some bushes to hide behind. Over here, there's no bushes to hide behind. You can look at the mini-map, and you can watch this left side. Tanks like to come around on the left side here. And look at where those enemy tanks are. I've got shots on them. They're very far away. I actually hit that STA-1 twice. I hit him for damage, and I did some assistance damage on him. I tracked him, so I hit him once. So you can guard against tanks that come around. You're also right near the repair facility. If you need to repair, you just dive forward and go repair. Now, this is the view of the cap. Any tank that gets onto the cap, you'll be able to shoot at. And there's a little gap over here. I believe that's an IS-3. If they start to rush the cap, the tanks that come from the left side, you'll be able to get some shots in. The tanks that come from the right behind this hill over here, you're not going to be able to hit. There's a little tiny gap over here between the houses where you can get a shot in, or if a tank sits right there. But there are going to be houses in the way. This is not the best position for covering the cap. There's another position which I'll show you. Now, this is a tank that's up here at the position that I'm pointing to on the hill, and I'm pointing to it on the mini-map right now. That's this position over here. So you can hit that from this position. You can defend that position. And if you know this position, you're going to know that it's hard to hit those tanks. So that's another reason why this position is pretty powerful. This is the same position, but with a different tank. You can see here that there's an enemy tank that is on the cap. And then there's a little gap over here because the enemies are assaulting. This is another position. I'm going to show you where it is. It's basically on the mini-map. It's near this T69. And it's over here where you see the resupply logo. There's a T69, and there's this mountain over here. This is where I believe the position is. Yes. You'll notice that the T69 is still here. I believe he might be up above right next to me. Okay, so it might be right here, not this upper rock, but this lower rock. So you can look on the mini-map and see where it is. Now, from this position, you can guard against tanks where the T-28 prototype and the Defender and the ISM is. There's going to be a lot of tanks that come around this corner. You can see there's a Progetto 46 that crossed over. So you've got a lot of time to hit the tanks that cross over that gap and at tanks that make it onto the cap to try and defend. So there's a position here. You've got more time to hit tanks as they cross over that you can't hit from that other position. So this is a position that you can advance to. For example, if you're over here and you see that there's a lot of tanks over here that you can't hit, you go over the side, you run up to where this rock is, and then you can hit those tanks that are over here. This is a view from the C-cap on the attacking team. On the east side, there's a little opening that allows you to enter the field. For example, where this T-44 is entering the field. And this hill is right next to it. And you knock the tree down, and you have a partial view or a pretty good view of the C-cap. And what happens is in this location, the enemy team is going to line up to defend the C-cap, and I'm going to point to it on the mini-map also. And I can look in that direction, and I can hit any tank that tries to show up there or tries to enter the C-cap. Plus, I can hit these tanks over here that are making their way to the east side. There is cover, buildings and rocks that they're going to hide behind, and there's some trees and stuff. But you will get shots as they're moving into a fighting position. And if they expose themselves on the east side up on this ridge, you'll be able to hit them. This is another view. Let's see if it's, I'm going to just check to see if it's the exact same position. No, this is a different position. So look at the mini-map and look at how I've moved. I think before I'm guessing I was right up over here. I've moved a little bit eastward Okay, so I wasn't up in that spot, but I was in a lower position. And over here, there's room for 2 tanks. He should have knocked the tree down. But we basically have the same view of that C cap. But you can see that enemy tanks have started to show up. There's an LT 432 up on that ridge. Now, where the SU 130 PM is the better position. And I was actually in that position, but he got behind me and I wanted to make room for him. So I relocated to this position. It's not the greatest position. However, the good thing about this spot, okay, over this position here is where this dead scorpion is. The good thing about this position is that you're pretty much guaranteed that there's going to be enemy tanks that are going to show up over there, and they're going to have strong turrets. This tank is not going to be strong enough to penetrate the turrets of the tanks that show up there, but if they advance onto the cap, you're going to get a clear view. So if you can destroy enemy turrets, or if you're going to fire high explosive rounds, this is a good position to cover Cap C, plus to monitor the east side. This is a view of what it looks like when you're in the sniper mode. This over here is where the enemy tanks are going to show up, and they're going to show their turrets, or you might be able to get shots on their lower plates if they come around this corner. This is an ally who is trying to cap, and this is somewhat near the position that your allies are going to be in. They're going to be over here and a little bit off screen over here. Right now we're looking at Cap D. This is a defending position. Look at the mini-map. You're probably familiar with this area. The red line is right in front of you. So you could, when you retreat, you're going to retreat to this position. If you're very careful, you could probably knock this tree down so that, you know, it's a hard tree to knock down because I think there's rocks over here, and you got to be really lucky to knock that tree down to obscure you. So you're going to want to make sure you have a camo net because you will get spotted over here. In fact, I was spotted when I started sniping at these tanks. Maybe there's another position behind you where you can still cover it. I'm going to have to try. I'm going to have to look. But basically, from this position, you can spot tanks as they're entering the resupply circle, and you can shoot at them. Notice that I'm the only one on my team that's in a position to spot or defend this area. So this is a good sniping position that you can use after the enemy has capped D and they're starting to make their advance northward. Now we're going to move on to Cap E. This is the attacking team. Look at the mini-map where I am. There's some sort of a ridge over here. There's a bunch of rocks, etc. And notice that you've got a clear view of Cap E, which means you're going to be able to help your team defend Cap E. Enemy tanks will try to advance from over here. They'll set up positions over here. They'll show up over here. They'll come over here, and plus they'll be in this position. And I knocked the tree down to show you that you can get pretty good coverage over here. Here's another view when the enemy starts to show up. Notice that you got clear shots on these tanks over here, on the tank that shows up over here, etc. And my team is capping, so I can cover if enemy tanks assault the cap or if they approach the cap from either side. Now notice where I am on the mini-map again. We're going to go to a different position. This position is further back. It's in the B side. And if you look over here where this tank is, you'll notice that there's a lot of enemy tanks in that position. And what I've discovered is that enemy tanks, they do like to play in this position. There's a rock over here and a rock over here, and there's a gap over here, and there's a rock over here, and there's a rock over here, and there's another gap over here. Behind him is a hill going down, which the enemy climbs to get up into this position. There's a route to his rear left, and there's a route to here to his front left. So this is a rock. So your allies might go around this way. They might go through this way. There's different ways to get to this position. So what happens is this becomes a choke point. If the enemy advances, they might not be at this position. They might be behind all these rocks. You won't be able to shoot at them. If your team advances, this is where they're going to put up their last defense. Once they give up this position, you will have control of all of this area on the minimap. So this is their last stand. And look at where I am on the minimap. It's north of the supply point. So if you're a sniper, you're going to come to the supply point. You're going to go up this ridge over here. Where the STRV is I believe, some sort of a tower, a lighthouse type of a building. There's this ridge over here. Look for this gap and check to see how your team is doing and see if you can help. If not, what you do is you reposition to this position, which means that your allies have taken over this position. You advance to this new position on the minimap, and then you start defending the cap. Okay, now this is what it looks like when the enemy starts to advance onto the cap. What I did was, I was in this position, I advanced to this position, and then I'm going to go to the place that I'm pointing to on the minimap, which is right here, because we killed off those tanks that were up on the hill. These tanks over here, these 3 tanks, got killed off. So I advanced to this position because my team was controlling the southern half of the map. This tank is advancing. You can see that I have a clear shot as he comes across. This is what it looks like from the position that I am. There's a little bit of a hill over here. You're not going to get shot at from tanks that are up here. The tanks that are coming around are not going to shoot at you because they're going to be focused on the cap. Tanks like this guy, he's going to be focused on the cap, so he's not going to shoot at you. You'll notice that there is a tank coming from behind me, the M41 Bulldog, and I do have an object who's behind me. So in this case, I'm going to be safe. However, you do have to watch out for what may happen from behind. This is another tank that's trying to advance through this area over here. He's a slow tank, and I was able to get a shot on him. I believe that I have a long reload. This is another position. The position that I just showed you, which is right here, is the position that I'm going to show you is a little bit off screen over here. Right over here, there's a tree you can knock down. Look at where it is on the mini-map. Where the charioteer was is a little bit over here on the right. Now from here you can cover Cap E, but not only that, this is actually the defending team. And what I'm doing is I'm defending. The enemy has capped B, and they're going to advance to this ridge over here. And where the T-44 is, behind him there's an opening, and they have to cross that opening if they want to go through here. I'm pointing to the opening. There's going to be tanks that are going to go this way. And there's going to be tanks that are going to go behind this large mountain over here. If they go behind that mountain, you're not going to be able to shoot at them. If they come through this gap, you will. So you'll be able to get some shots as they go through this gap and as they go up over into here. Here's an example of a tank that's trying to cross through that gap. As you can see, I have a clear shot on him and his ally, which is right behind him. There's a lot of coverage in this position. You just knock that tree down. You can see that there's an OHO and he's crossing a little gap over here. So when I first hit him, he was crossing this big gap. He climbed up this area. He's now over here. I believe I wasn't reloaded, so I missed my shot on him. But you do have a shot on hitting those tanks as they cross this gap. And I probably hit the Centurion when he came across here, and I didn't reload in time for the OHO. And there might be shots over here through this gap. I am not sure. Now, this is the cap. And this is for the attacking team. This is what the cap looks like. Most tanks like to hide right over here. There's a little mound. There is a building here, and there's some pipes over here that can't be destroyed, and they park over here. Now, the enemy that I just showed you, he's over here on the left side of the building. There's a green cap circle, there's a building, and there's this wall over here, and he fit himself right over here. And the reason why is because he can't be spotted from the wall. The house is protecting him, The mound is, of course, additional protection, and everyone likes to drop artillery over here. So this might be a smart position that you can play if you're on the attacking team. This is Cap F, and I'm going to show you the defending team. Now look at where I am on the mini-map. There is, if you look at the red on the bottom of the screen here, it's some sort of an athletic field, and that looks like a running track. So there's an athletic field right here, and I am at the north of the athletic field. You can see that this enemy tank that I apparently killed is 305 meters away. I didn't kill it, my allies killed it. He's 305 meters away, and he is right on the cap. You can see from the mini-map that he's right on the supply area. So from here, you have coverage of the supply area. This is not the only position. There's lots of positions that you can use. I just happened to find this one really quick. So I haven't yet decided yet what's the ideal position. Not only can you hit the tanks on the cap, but it's all open field over here. So anyone that's approaching the cap, you're going to be able to spot them and snipe at them. And they're going to be focused on getting at that resupply area, so they might not pay a lot of attention to you. And you're going to be able to hit their side armor, which is why you don't need APCR rounds. You can do this game with AP rounds. So this is the actual position. Is this the same position? This is a different position. So here again is the football field. This one has a tree where you can knock the tree down. It's going to be about the same distance, but you'll notice that you could still cover that resupply area and the approach to get there. And maybe a little bit further, there's not a lot of obstacles in the way. So that's an important position. What happens is if F gets capped, you run to this position and you start defending from here. Now this is the F position. Look at where I am on the minimap. You're going to recognize that there's a hill. It's got some rocks around it. There's a tree. It's right next to the cap. The cap is right here. This is a very powerful position. And I do see tanks playing here, but I think it's more powerful than some of the other positions. First of all, you've got this approach on the upper ridge over here. You can defend tanks. The farthest that they'll make it is this house over here, and they'll have to hide behind the house. If they try to come around, you'll get them. You'll be able to spot the tanks, and your snipers on the other side are going to be able to do damage at them. Plus, there's a lower area. Some tanks are going to approach on this lower area. You'll be able to monitor that lower area and snipe on that lower area. People haven't realized it yet. It's better to approach on that lower area than on the upper area. And the reason why is because when you're on that lower area, this is the only position that can hit you. All these other snipers can't. If you go to the upper area, you can get hit by all sorts of snipers. So that's why I always approach on the lower area. And not only that, the lower area can take you right into the base with the shortest amount of time without being spotted. If you take the upper area, you have more time that it's going to take. You're more likely to be spotted if you come from the upper area to try to get onto the base. So that's why I like this position. Now from that position, you can spot the bridge where enemies like to brawl. So you can see that there's an IS-3. He's approaching the area under the bridge. Your allies will also go down here. And the reason why everybody likes to brawl here is because nobody can snipe them here unless you're in this position. This is probably the only position where you have clear sniping shots under the bridge. I haven't checked every position yet, but this one definitely has it. So tanks will be on the upper level. They'll run down and they'll get into the brawl. You'll be able to defend against that if it happens. This is where I was in this position. I rolled back down the slope because the Lorraine showed up on the other side of that house. I'm preventing him from advancing past that house, and I kept him spotted. So my allies are able to take sniping shots at that tank from here. And plus you still got the view of the road, you got some things to hide behind, etc. And if you get spotted over here, all the tanks on the enemy west flank cannot hit you. The only tanks that can hit you are going to be the ones that are up on this ridge, and I don't think it's going to be very likely. can happen, but you've got a good safe position over here. Now this is next to this position, but down on this side of the hill over here. I'm going to show you where it is. This is the sniping area. Notice where I'm sniping into. I'm sniping right into here. This is the house that most people like to hide behind when they're capping. They like to hide behind it because there's a house and there's some bushes. You can snipe through there, and I believe that there's a house behind this house where tanks like to show up, and you can hit those tanks too. So there's actually two positions that you can hit from this location. So if you're up here, you just come down over here and you snipe on those tanks. This is a position that's further away. Look at where I am on the mini-map. We were at this U-shaped position. This is further back. You can still snipe on those tanks 340 meters away. You might not be able to spot them, and they might not be able to spot you back. But if you spawn and you're being capped, head for this position and maybe blind fire in there if you have to. But head up for this position and then make a beeline for that area so that you can spot anything that might show up, and you can snipe at anything that might be in that position. That's a key position. So basically, you go here and then you drive directly the path of the yellow line. This is a position that's further away. The enemy capped F. You knock down the trees over here. There's going to be lots of trees. They're never going to spot you. There's a rock for some cover. You can snipe at anybody. All these tanks that are showing up over here, I can't see what they are, but you've got them covered. It is possible to spot them. It's going to be a little bit difficult to spot them. You might have to go up here. You might get spotted. You have to hide behind the rock, but it is possible. This is a playable position. Plus, you can cover tanks. You see over here, there's a resupply facility. The resupply facility is at the edge of your range, and tanks are probably not going to come over the slope over here, but you can give some support to your allies, because if your allies are one shot, a tank might come over and try and shoot at them. So you do have some cover for your allies, for anyone that's heading for the resupply. And anyone that leaves the resupply, you might be able to get shots on them also. So this is a good fallback position. Here's another view from that fallback position. This is up. Where I was before was down here closer to this rock. This is up a little bit higher. You can see that there's a lot of trees over here. Over here, you don't realize how many trees are in front of you, but it's like a forest. You might have shots on hitting tanks that are trying to approach the resupply area if you're up in this position. This is the cap. This is the attacking team. We have 6 tanks on the cap. One of them is dead. So there's 5 other tanks. A lot of the tanks are out in the open. And what I did was I dropped a smoke screen, which is right over here, to protect the location of my allies. And you can see that an enemy tank is running in to try and spot us. So I just wanted to show you something that happened in this particular game, what a smoke screen looks like. I don't know if I dropped it in exactly the right position, or if it helped anybody, but that is what I did. Now we're going to talk about the objectives, and this is mostly going to be sniping positions. You're going to see me talk about this in another clip. This is objective 3. Look at where I am on the mini-map. You'll notice that I'm very far from objective 3, 639 meters. I damaged objective 3 from that distance. If you look over here, you'll see I did 68 damage, and it doesn't say what I hit. And if you look at the damage meter, you can see that there's been less than 100 damage done to this objective. Look at where I am on the mini-map. We just capped E. I haven't even made it to the resupply point yet. I saw objective 3. I loaded up a high explosive round. I was driving the VK100-01P. I hit the side, and I did damage to objective 3. Even though it wasn't a lot, you could basically sit here and hit it 15 times, I guess, and you can destroy it. If everyone on your flank hits it once and does 68 damage, you can destroy it from this position. And there's other positions. As you're approaching, as you get to the resupply and you head up this road, you can keep on shooting at it again and again and again and again. This is an overpowered position. There's probably a way, if you've got a strong derp gun for tier 8, to do more damage. If you do it in tier 10, you're definitely going to do more damage. So they're probably going to figure this out, and they're probably going to block it so you can't do it in the future. But at this point in the game, you can hit that turret from this position. So it's a very important position. You're probably going to want to know what it is, especially if number 3 only needs a few hits left and you respawn and it's a fast-paced game. You can go here and give it a shot. Or if you have a slow tank. Now, if you're in E, this is past the resupply point. The resupply point is right behind me, and people are going up that bridge. Objective 3 is right over here. You'll notice that there's a rock formation and these 2 buildings, and I have a weakly armored tank. I'm going to go between these 2 buildings over here. There's 3 buildings, so I went in the smaller gap. And this is the view of what you see. So you can cover the road. There's a bridge over here. All these tanks are about to cross that bridge, and I can shoot across the bridge. This looks like a toll booth that's on the bridge, and I can shoot across the bridge. Enemy tanks are going to defend over here. There are some tanks that are right there. They're unspotted right now. Unfortunately, I did get hit by the artillery, and there's an enemy tank up on this defensive area who did hit me. So maybe what you might want to do is actually get between the buildings or get on the other side of the building. You're far enough away, you're not going to get spotted, and enemies won't be able to shoot at you from behind. So this is a good spot, sniping position if you've got a slow tank and you're not going to be able to make it across the bridge, or if you've got a weakly armored tank. Now for Objective 2, look at where I am on the minimap. We leave E. I believe that Objective 2 is the easiest objective to kill in the game, because you can go through from the resupply point, you cross over the rail, you get into this rail yard, you drive all the way up to Objective 2. There's no open field. You've got a hill, so you're not going to be spotted. You've got rail cars on both sides and a wall, so you can't be sniped easily. You've got rail cars over here, so you can't be sniped easily. You got buildings over here, you can't be sniped easily. Your allies are going to be behind you. And there's another route. If you get spotted over here, if there's an enemy tank over here, you just go through the rail cars, go through the wall, and go on the other side. And you could go along the river, which is a lower position than this position. And the river has a slight wall. You can't fall into the river. Maybe you can get sniped from the 3 tower. I don't know. Usually there's nobody up there because it's not a good position. So you can easily make it to Objective 2 just driving up through here, especially if you've got fast tanks. This is another way to get to Objective 2. If you're at D, you go to the resupply, you head east, you go up the mountain, there's a little gap that you can drive down the mountain. The enemy won't expect you to come from this way. I didn't know that this was here. I just happened to discover it while I was avoiding the Progetto. You can see that the Progetto hit me twice. Found this little gap, and then you can head through these buildings to make it to Objective 2. There's a big ridge over here. To get to 1, you have to go out in this open field. To get to 2, there's a smaller open area. Lots of buildings. So this is an alternative route to get there. Now this is what it looks like when you get to Objective 2. Objective 2 is right here, and it's dead, which is why it's not colorful and it's not highlighted. What I did was I shot at it on the move, and the game ended, and I just ended up behind this rock. And I believe I was the one who destroyed Objective 2, and the game ended. Look at where I am on the minimap. I probably came from the resupply, drove through the train yard, got to Objective 2, took some shots at it. It looks like I took 3 or 4 shots at it. Maybe nobody spotted at me, and I killed it. This tank may have also come from the E spawn, drove through the rail yard, got to this area. There's lots of buildings at Objective 2 where you can hide. I hit Objective 2. Look how much damage I did. 821 damage against Objective 2. I went to where the IS-3A is, hit it, came back here to reload, and then the IS-3A must have destroyed it. Objective 2 has lots of buildings that you can hide behind and hit it, and you cannot get sniped. The enemy has to come down and brawl with you. It kind of looks like an open area, but it's not possible to defend Objective 2 by sniping. They have to get down and they have to brawl with you, and they often don't. Objective 2 is very easy to kill. This is Objective 1. What I'm doing is I'm sniping at it. You can look at where I am on the mini-map. What I probably did was I probably came from the rail yards, and I probably went to Objective 2, and I just drove right past it, head for Objective 1. Or what I may have done, based on the amount of damage, I hit Objective 2 one time, and then I went to Objective 1 and hit Objective 1 and did damage on that once, which is another technique that I use. No, it probably didn't happen because I don't see any damage on Objective 2. So this is a sniping position that you can use. There's this building that's going to block you, and all these rocks are going to block you. There's a ridge over here. It kind of makes it hard. It's not easy for the enemy to hit you when you're in this position. Now you can see that there was a tank over here that exploded. He was shooting at Objective 1. It was a VK-101P. And I had difficulty shooting at him. I did damage him once, but he was sitting over here, which is the same position that I'm in, but he's a little bit behind the slope. And he was shooting at Objective 1 from this position. Basically, he was on the other side of these rocks. Right now I'm defending. And as you can see, it's a really strong position to attack. So when you're defending, you're going to want to monitor this position because tanks are going to show up over here to shoot at Objective 1. And the good thing about this position is that you can also reposition to defend Objective 2 if you need to. And here you can see that I'm getting a closer view of Objective 1. And the reason why is if you look at the mini-map, there's some tanks out there in the distance that are going to hit Objective 1 real soon. For some reason, I don't see them on the screen, even though they're spotted. And what happened was I had to advance closer. It looks like we won this game. But you can see that this T-32, he's right here on the mini-map, and he moved to this position. So he was behind these buildings. He moved into this sniping position to hit Objective 1 as I was moving into this position to try and shoot at the T-32. This is another popular position where enemies are going to snipe at Objective 1. So this position that I'm in, which is over here, you can also defend this position by relocating over here. Now this is where the T-32 was. As you can see, I'm hitting Objective 1. I hit it 3 times. Oh, you know what? I did not hit Objective 1 3 times. That was probably Objective 2 because Objective 1 doesn't show any, or maybe I did. It's hard to, no, okay. Hard to tell if Objective 1 did any damage. But you can see that I have clear shots on Objective 1 from this position. This is not a high penetrating gun. The problem is the enemy often is defending over here. You're going to get spotted because you're too close. It is a dangerous position. When you have an autoloader, you might only be able to get 1 shot in, and you might have to reverse to reload for 2 or 3 seconds and then go forward to get another shot in and keep on repeating. Or you might have to side scrape on this building. But this is another sniping position that you're going to want to use for Objective 1. Now this is Objective 5. Look at where it is on the mini-map. This is the power position for Objective 5. There's other positions for 5. you can get to the point where I am pointing on the mini-map, and you could probably snipe Objective 5 if you have a high penetrating gun like the STRV. I was one of the beta testers in the sandbox 2 years ago, and that's a position that I quickly learned you could use. I don't know if you can still do it because they changed the map to make it more difficult to snipe at the objectives from long range. The other problem with this position is you're out in the open. So if you get spotted, you're going to get killed. You're going to have tanks shooting at you from all over the place. A lot of enemy tanks spawn over here and line up over here. So you'll notice on the mini-map there's 2 rocks over here with bushes, and I'm going to talk about this in my other sniping video. What you do is you come to these 2 rocks and these bushes, and here's Objective 5 right here. When you're reloading, you get behind here, and when you go out to snipe, you go and you shoot at it, or you can go out in the other direction. It's probably safer to be on the left side, but you're just going to have to call it in the heat of battle. Because we have a little bit of control of the territory, it's kind of safe for me to be on either side right now. The problem is this is a heavily defended position. If you look at where this Progetto 46 is, there's a large rock formation with a road that goes around it that's elevated. The enemy will defend this position, and your allies are going to be slow to take it. They're going to camp right on this lower part over here. If they can overtake this position, the next strong position is right here. They have to also overtake this position. I have sat here while the enemy was on the other side of the rock, so it's not impossible. But if you do that, you're going to get spotted, and if the enemy figures out what you're doing, and if you have low hit points, they might get gutsy and come after you. And if you don't have someone helping you out from down here sniping at you, you might die trying to take this position. So this is a power position. This is the rocks where we were just at. What I did was I repositioned along the red line to increase the distance to show you. I believe the objective is 388 meters. It's hard to see. Yeah, that's what it is. The objective is right there. There's the gun. 388 meters, more difficult to penetrate with this low penetrating gun. I think this might be the game where I decided to just switch to APCR. I did that in one game. I said, I'm too far. I'm just going to do APCR and kill it off. It looks like number 5 was already destroyed. And I did not use APCR, so it wasn't in this game. But you can use this position if you don't want to be exactly at the rock. If you want to be further away and you want to hide a bit more. And you see that we own this territory. So it is a safe position at this point in the game. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. You'll get to see similar videos to this as I release them on a regular basis in the coming weeks. Thank you.